nuestra experiencia en Sinquera, comenzar a atacar y aniquilar posiciones enemigas.
1983 was here in Sinquera for their unit. It was like a transition year, a changing year, because that year they stopped only defending themselves and they started attacking military positions in order to collect more guns, to control more territory.
Y fue un año pues en que sí realmente pudimos ampliar el control territorial y poner nuestra fuerza militar o la presencia de fuerzas militares guerrilleras aquí en la
So
zona.
they placed enough military force, I mean enough guerrillas in this area to take over 4 different military positions, 4 posiciones fueron,
Cuatro posiciones.
in order to expand their territory. Because their territory was split in two by a line of military positions. So they had to blow them up in order to expand.
Esta fue una modalidad que nosotros denominamos de concentrarnos para atacar y aniquilar posiciones del ejército.
So a new modality of war, they adopted a new modality of warfare. They started uniting a lot of them to attack, and then they would go back and disunite in order to hide.
Y bueno, casi a final del 83 tuvimos que realizar otra modalidad que fue de desconcentrarnos y poder hacer presencia de lucha guerrillera.
A guerrilla war is fun in a way that it's civilian people that dress up and they go for battle. The battle's over, they undress their uniform, they go back to civilian clothing, and they hide among civilian population. So it's an appear, hit, and run strategy.
Y que era una modalidad que le tenía también mucho miedo el ejército, porque era un disparo, una baja, o una mina que explotaban, 1 o 2 bajas, y ellos no podían hacerlos ningún daño.
Because of like small rebel units attacking militaries, they could use, for example, a sharpshooter and just 1 bullet, 1 kill, 1 mine, 1 or 2 kills. But little by little, they were not vulnerable for the army, but the army was vulnerable for them being in just very small units.
Pero aún así, ya el año 84, parte 85, el ejército nos había aplicado una modalidad también de constantes operativos por tierra.
Towards 84, 85, the army would do a lot of land intrusions to this territory.
Con el objetivo principalmente de capturar o masacrar a la población civil.
With the main objective of massacring all the civilian population in the area and capturing and torturing the rebel soldiers.
Que como resultado de eso ellos nos ejecutaron 7 masacres.
As a result of those orders, the immediate reaction battalions against guerrilla warfare that we talked about a little while ago came into this area, and 7 massacres occurred around Sinquera.
Y todo era porque ellos consideraban que la población civil era como el agua que nos estaba dando vida a nosotros, tanto con los niños que iban creciendo a la guerrilla o para darnos con de
The
comer.
civilian population was the food source. The civilian population was the nursery. The kids as they grow up would become guerrillas. So the civilian population in these areas was the water for the fish, the rebels.
Y bueno, ante eso nosotros tuvimos que realizar como una estrategia que fue evacuar a la población civil a refugios como a San Salvador, a Mesa Grande, Honduras.
So the strategy for the first 4 or 5 years of war, the government troops were just killing people, civilian population, mostly so towards 1984, 85, the rebels thought if we just stay here, they're going to kill us all. So they started taking their civilian families to refugee camps such as Mesa Grande in Honduras, or, well, getting them out of here.
Pero esto con el objetivo de sacarlas, pero hacer el trabajo posteriormente de retornarlas a su lugar de origen.
The objective was to get them out because it was a dangerous time, but the longer term objective was to keep them safe so they could return eventually.
Pero de hecho estos retornos tenían que ser de una manera planificada, en conjunto con coordinación con las Naciones Unidas.
But this, look, first half of the 80s, massacres. So the United Nations had to get involved because there were too many crimes against humanity. Once the United Nations got involved, and around 1986, the war twisted because it was not anymore massacres against civilian population that was kind of forbidden. And then it became more war between two uniformed enemies.
Y fue así como ya en el año 86 empezamos a hacer esos retornos, pero que ya el ejército ya no podía hacerle nada a esta población por la verificación de ACNUR.
From 1986 on, people started coming back to the country, civilians, but they had the support of the United Nations Blue Berets to safekeep these populations so the army could not touch them anymore.
Y así pues nosotros logramos volver a traer a nuestra gente y para seguir el apoyo.
And so the rebels, that way, through the United Nations, were able to bring back the civilian population, which is the water for them to swim.
Bueno, el año 87, que fue uno de los años también como de los más duros que tuvimos como durante la guerra.
Since the massacres stopped, the army evolved their ways of attack towards the people. They couldn't come and just shoot unarmed population. So they thought, now we can use the Air Force, drop bombs and kill that population without being crimes against humanity.
Y bueno, en este año fue uno de los años que teníamos de 4 a 6 veces diarias que venía la aviación a bombardear, a ametrallar, de todo.
The main Air Force base is 40-minute driving away from here. By air is 10-15 minutes away. So because of proximity, the Air Force would fly and do bombings in this area 4 to 6 times a day.
Y no era de un avión o un helicóptero, sino era un equipo que no bajaba de 10, 12.
It was not just like one single aircraft bringing 3 bombs. It was 10 to 12, like a dozen aircrafts flying over and dropping all their bombs.
Entonces esta era una situación pues que tanto con el estruendo, los bombardeos y todo nos causaba problemas psicológicos.
So that was a huge psychological pressure against them because they couldn't move freely, they couldn't cook, they couldn't feed themselves, they couldn't sleep.
Aparte de que no podíamos cocinar tranquilamente nuestros alimentos y eso nos causaba aguantar mucha hambre.
So not being able to cook meant feeling hungry, being weak.
Y bueno, hasta que se dio una oportunidad en este año en un evento en Cuba de partidos de izquierda del mundo.
There was, in 1987, there was a Congress in Cuba. Communist countries got together and they had like a big Congress. Part of the rebels of El Salvador went to this Congress.
Y que bueno, la participación del comandante Ramón Torres, que fue allá, pudo conocer la información acerca de las cocinas vietnamitas.
So local commander Ramón Torres went to that Congress and he learned about the experience of the Vietcong during the Vietnam War and how they used to cook under airstrikes.
Y bueno, fue así como cuando regresó para acá a la zona, llamó a todos los jefes de unidades para explicarles cómo era la función de las cocinas vietnamitas.
So Don Rafa was a unit commander. Ramon was higher ranking commander. So when Ramon came back, he called in all the unit commanders and he told them, I'm going to show you how to make a Vietnamese kitchen.
Y bueno, esta es una cocina de ese tipo, del tipo vietnamita.
And so this is a Vietnamese kitchen.
Y bueno, aquí la técnica consistía primero en buscar un lugar donde tuviéramos acceso al agua.
So the technique to build up a Vietnamese kitchen, first of all, in order to cook, in order to prepare food, you need water. So you need a close, nearby water source.
Donde hubieran como algunos de los árboles más grandes también para poder ubicar el espacio de la cocina.
You also needed tall trees around the place where you have to, you needed to choose a place with tall trees around.
Y bueno, en este caso pues se eligió este lugar y la técnica consistía en elaborar un canal bajo tierra de 20 o 30 metros de largo.
So the technique is to break up the smoke. Because if you make a fire, a smoke column will go up, an airplane, a sharpshooter can see the smoke from a distance and you can get attacked. If no one sees where you're cooking, you will be safe. So they would carve a ditch that goes for 20 to 30 meters. They would cover it with roof tiles, soil, leaves on top. And the idea was to make the fire like in a sealed area, pretty much, just like an entrance of air, and you would push the air through the fire into the chimney. Yeah? And the chimney would break up the smoke into like so thin then once it goes through the dirt, through the leaves, it can go up maybe a meter or so, but it doesn't reaches the canopy. So from the air you cannot see if someone's cooking down here.
Y bueno, de hecho esta modalidad nos sirvió para asegurar en un 90% la seguridad de la alimentación y la seguridad del personal que trabajaba acá.
So this helped them, if you would evaluate, like 90% safe, and not 100% safe, but 90% safe, safety for the preparation of a meal and 90% safety for the people that were preparing the meal.
Y bueno, nosotros la denominamos cocina vietnamita por ser un tipo de cocina que utilizaron ahí en Vietnam para la guerra que tuvieron ellos.
And they call it Vietnamese kitchen, well, because it was used during the Vietnam conflict.